Let me say happy birthday to Courtney Miller and welcome to one of the final PM services that's online only. We will continue our live stream, but we're planning to resume in-person services. And so I do want to give an update from the survey. Again, our target is in-person services beginning on March 14th. If you look at the cases of COVID, they really have spiked this winter. Gone way up, which is one of the reasons we didn't resume in person, but now they've begun to plummet. And so it's wonderful to see the cases going back down. And so we feel like we can return. The survey that we took as a church shows that there is a desire for more fellowship, for more Singspirations, for more life classes. And so we've been talking to the deacons about how frequently we want to offer those, but a lot of it will be determined just on how much interest we have. Remember, next Sunday, March 7th at 9 a.m., we're going to have a business meeting in the morning to vote on some exciting building projects that we already have the money for, but we want to bring it to the congregation one last time. Next Sunday evening, or afternoon really, at 4 o'clock, we're going to have a community outreach in the gym where we'll take door hangers with invite cards to Easter services, to our sacred concert coming up, and 9-volt batteries with a reminder to check smoke detectors. On March 14th, we have the coffee team in the morning. We'll hear from evangelist Aaron Coffey that evening. We'll have our first in-person service, an Irish sacred concert that I hope that you can invite friends to from the community. At this point, we're planning to have communion the evening of March 21st and another brief, hopefully business meeting just to take on a couple new mission support items that I think you'll be excited about. On March 28th, we're planning a Singspiration, and on March 4th, we'll have a modified evening service that is Easter, and so we don't want to put too much demand on some of our volunteers, but we still want to have a service for those who want to come. And then on April 11th, we will, for 3 weeks, through the last 3 weeks of April, offer life classes along with a regular service in the auditorium. This morning, we looked at Solomon, how he seemed like a pessimist. They say when two pessimists meet at a party, they don't shake hands. Even before COVID, they just shake their heads. An optimist says the glass is half full. A pessimist says it's half empty. A realist says that it's both. It's halfway exactly. And while the three of them are arguing, the opportunist comes and drinks the whole glass. Well, Solomon, like a good pessimist, is just shaking his head throughout this letter, this book of wisdom. We could almost refer to it as his journal at the end of life. There was a pessimist and an optimist who were neighbors, and the optimist on a sunny day looked out and said, a lot like David or Jeremiah or the psalmist, "What a beautiful day that God has made." The pessimist said, "That stupid sun's going to scorch the crops." The next day it rained, and the optimist said, "Beautiful, we need the rain." The pessimist said, "Yeah, it's going to wash away all the seed." Well, this went back and forth day after day. And one day, the optimist said, "I'm going to invite my neighbor on a duck hunt." This was his favorite activity. He got so enthused about it. And so they were in the boat early in the morning, and boom, the gun went off, bird fell to the ground, and the optimist sent out his dog to fetch the duck. The optimist's dog walked and actually then ran across the top of the water. He grabbed the duck. He ran back on top of the water to the boat, and by now the optimist was beaming, and he elbowed the pessimist, and he said, "What do you think of that?" The pessimist, all he could say was, "Oh, so your dog can't swim, can he?" Solomon continually says, no matter what the topic is, no matter what subject that he's explored, it's hevel, it's meaningless. He says this 38 times in about 200 verses. You can do the math. And before you just blow him off and say, well, he had a lot of bad breaks, he must have had a tough life, remember, this is a guy who had everything. This is a guy that God gave more wisdom than anyone in the world. He had oil chic wealth, a guy who had all the women he could want. He knew what it was like to be smart, to be wealthy, to party, and for 12 chapters, he's going to go systematically through every aspect of life and say it's meaningless, prove that it's worthless without God. So Solomon is not a pessimist per se. He's a realist. This is how life really felt for him when he was ignoring the God above the sun. And this is what life will feel like for anyone who lives as if there's no God. This is what life feels like right now for many Americans. That's why they're depressed. That's why they're suicidal. Even many Christians who start listening to Satan's lies, who start living like the only reality is what exists below the sun. It can be demoralizing. It can be depressing. See, evolution is not some wonderful, liberating new religion like our culture has been told. It's dehumanizing. It says we're nothing but a cosmic accident, a random byproduct of the universe. Last Sunday afternoon, I was driving into church to our deacons meeting. I was listening to NPR, and they were interviewing a woman who had written a book on being thankful, on how gratitude will revolutionize your life. And she interviewed different people. One of them was a monk. And so, of course, he said, God has created this world. It's a wonderful world. We can be grateful. But the two women in the interview that were both agnostics or atheists. And one of the other chapters in the book was written by an atheist comedian. And so here they were talking about all the things we talked about in the morning service, about existentialism and how we're just the random byproduct of the universe. And so we just need to count our lucky stars and be happy and be grateful that we hit some kind of random existential lottery. And in reality, if you're an honest existentialist, you experience that existential angst, that evolution is dehumanizing. It says we're just this cosmic accident, a random byproduct of the universe. And that thinking will cause us to steal and kill and destroy. That's what Jesus says Satan does. You look at the world around us, stealing, killing, destroying. Last week, one of our church members had a neighbor on one side of his house who came and shot the neighbor on the other side of his house over where his car was parked. If you tell people long enough that they're just random accidents, they're just animals, pretty soon they'll start acting like that. We wonder why we have so much rape and murder and violence. Well, look at the animal kingdom. What do you expect when you tell people that's all they are? The Bible teaches us we're made in the image of God, that humans are the crowning glory of God's creation, but we've believed Satan's lie. The prophet Isaiah says, all we like sheep have done what? We've gone astray. We've turned everyone to his own way. But thankfully, the story doesn't end there. Thankfully, as we saw this morning in John chapter 10 and Ecclesiastes 12, there is a good shepherd who has come to rescue you, to save your soul. In fact, this good shepherd says in Matthew 16, for what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? Your soul is an everlasting creation. It will never cease to exist. Your soul is eternal. It will be forever in heaven with God or in the lake of fire, forever separated from God. That's why your soul is infinitely more important than anything you could gain in this life. Because when the sun and the moon and the stars have all gone cold and dark, your soul will last. When the entire universe is gone, replaced by the new heaven and the new earth, your soul will still exist. Your soul's worth more than all the banks and Fortune 500 companies combined, all the stocks and bonds and inflated bonds and in gold and diamonds and oil and gas. Don't compare to the value of your soul, because it will go on endless and timeless and measureless into the future. Now you haven't always existed. Only God is eternal in both directions. There was a time when you were not, and there will be a time when you are not physically your body, but your soul will exist forever. So Jesus uses this economic language of profit and gain and exchange. And he says, why would you seek profit trying to gain these temporal, very temporal material possessions? Gaining the whole world would be worthless if you lose your own soul. Listen, tonight you can have eternal gain. You can have profit that will pay dividends for all eternity, for forever. You can ask the loving Creator to be your shepherd. You can turn from your sin and ask Him to save your soul. In fact, He laid down His life so that He would be qualified to do just that. For those of us who are believers, we should be laying down our lives for others. During the month of February, our Morningside kids focused on serving the medical community. They assembled 100 snack bags and they created Valentines to send along with the bags. And Beth Smith, one of our members who works for Prisma Health, was able to give out those snack bags to volunteer services who dispersed them to medical workers throughout the hospital. And one of the stories I didn't have time to tell this morning is that a recipient of one of those bags was a security officer who works faithfully at Prisma, and attached to his bag was a special Valentine created by Olivia Redman, whose father, a South Carolina State Trooper, was killed in the line of duty. And so that Valentine was particularly touching to him. And in the same way, we should recognize and be touched in our souls that God not only created us, but He didn't put us on a ruthless, random machine that just eats us up and turns us into dust. He created the world perfect and beautiful, designed for our needs, so that we could one day have a relationship with Him. He laid down His life for us so that we could experience the new heavens and the new earth with Him forever and ever.